The poor should be just fine with standing, shouldn't they? In that case, I'll be on my way home. My name is Sophia. After losing my husband to illness early on, my daughter Emily and I have been supporting each other. I've worked hard to raise Emily. I think that might have made her feel lonely at times. However, Emily has been fortunate enough to find a wonderful young man, Jack Taylor, and they are now in a relationship. Their decision to start living together led me to expand my professional horizons, and now I work in various places. Ah, hello Emily? It's Mom. How are you doing? Yeah. I'm good. Jack's fine too. That's great to hear. Oh, by the way, I was on a business trip recently and I'd like to drop by with some souvenirs. Will you be home this weekend? Thanks. But the weekend? It might be difficult. Can I come by on a weekday evening instead? I felt a bit uneasy with Emily's hesitance. But I didn't delve deeper, assuming she might just be busy. Little did I know, I would later regret not being more attentive at this moment. We agreed to meet the following Wednesday, and I suggested we all have dinner together, including Jack, which they happily accepted. It had been a while since I last saw Emily due to my frequent business trips. I eagerly awaited Wednesday, looking forward to seeing Emily and Jack. And then came the promised Wednesday night. Mom. I'm home. Good evening. Thank you for having me over as well. Good evening. Welcome, both of you. Dinner is ready. Emily's hair had grown longer since I last saw her, and Jack's was shorter. It's remarkable how much a change in hairstyle can alter someone's appearance. Regardless, it was reassuring to see them both looking well. I quickly warmed up the dinner I had prepared and set the table. They offered to help, but considering the hour's drive to my place, I figured they must be tired and declined their offer. Meals that I often have alone felt more enjoyable with the three of us around the table. Indeed, cooking for loved ones is always a joy. How have things been lately? Are you two enjoying yourselves? When I asked, they exchanged glances and smiled. Yeah. Every day is fun. Yes. I might be spoiling Emily a bit, but we're having a great time together. Their cheerful responses were very reassuring. Seeing my child happy always puts my mind at ease. As we talked about work and recent happenings at home, I felt truly content. Emily, always so dependable, and Jack, kind and cheerful. Jack might be a bit whipped, but perhaps that's just the right balance. My only wish is for Emily, who lost her father early and experienced loneliness, to find happiness. The day we reunited flew by, and before midnight, they headed back home. Sometime later, I received a call from Emily. Hello, Emily? What's the matter? Mom, well, no, it's nothing. Emily, clearly troubled, was about to hang up. But I couldn't let it go. Wait, Emily. Something's up, right? I'm here to listen, so please talk to me. Mom, yeah. Thank you. Can I come over next weekend? Of course. I'll be waiting for you. We ended the call, and I anxiously awaited the weekend. I was tempted to call her several times out of concern, but I guessed she must have wanted to talk in person, hence her request to visit. I found myself waiting for the weekend nonetheless. When the weekend came and Emily arrived, I made some coffee and handed it to her. However, Emily just stared at the coffee without taking a sip. Sensing she was deep in thought, I decided to break the silence. Emily, are you okay? Startled by my voice, Emily managed a wry smile. Before reluctantly beginning to speak. I don't want Jack to know, but it seems like Jack's mom doesn't like me. She told me to break up with him. What? I had never met Jack's mother in person, she was only ever mentioned in conversations, so I had no idea what she was like. But if she went as far as to demand a breakup, there must be something serious. Did you ask her why? Well, please don't be shocked, Mom. It seems she had an issue with us being a single-parent family after I mentioned it. Is that really the reason? She said, a girl raised in a single-parent household can only do so much. I can't let you be with Jack. How could there be such an unreasonable reason? How could someone hurt Emily and demand a breakup for such a cause? I was completely unable to comprehend it. So, even in this day and age, there are still people who hold such prejudices. It seems so. I told her that my dad passed away from an illness, but she still said it doesn't change the fact that we're a single-parent family. Seeing Emily force a laugh despite clearly feeling down hurt me deeply. Emily and I had gone through tough times after losing her father, my husband. We overcame those times, and there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. I wanted to help in any way possible, but I wondered if there was any solution. Anne. I didn't want to bring it up like this, but Jack proposed to me recently. Oh, really? That's wonderful. I was, of course, thrilled. But considering Jack's mom, I'm torn about what to do. I see. Yes, she will be your mother-in-law if you get married. I would naturally be delighted about Emily and Jack's marriage. However, given Emily's situation, I could understand her dilemma. Continuing the conversation, I learned that Jack's mom typically visits on weekends and seems to be kind when Jack is around. But her demeanor reportedly changes entirely when Jack is away for work on weekends. Sensing there was more to the story, I encouraged Emily to share everything, and she did so with a sigh. What Emily revealed next was shocking and could only be described as harassment. She told me that Jack's mom had thrown away the food Emily made, criticized her cleaning and laundry methods, and even said that Emily shouldn't burden Jack with living expenses, despite them not being married. Despite Emily working and sharing the financial responsibilities with Jack, it seemed Jack's mom wouldn't understand. That's terrible. I don't want to speak ill of Jack's mom, but, well, I'm not the best cook, and with working, I can't keep the house perfect. Maybe it's my fault. Haha. Emily's forced laughter was tinged with tears. I felt anger bubbling up but managed to restrain it. I suggested talking to Jack about it, but she refused, not wanting to worry him. After talking for a while longer, Emily said she felt relieved to have shared her troubles and mentioned she was heading home. I decided to give her something. Here, take this with you, just in case. Is this a voice recorder? I explained it was to keep evidence, just in case. It's better not to need it, but having proof in a dire situation is crucial. I often carry a voice recorder for work. So I handed one to Emily. Emily understood and agreed, placing the voice recorder in her bag. If anything happens, make sure to contact me again. Yeah, thank you, Mom. Emily said. And then she left. After a while, Emily contacted me, asking if it would be okay for her to come over with Jack. Apparently because they had decided to get married. Later, Jack and Emily came to my house dressed in suits, and seeing Jack so nervously stiff made me laugh. I served the cake and coffee I had prepared, and as we sat around the table, Jack stood up and stutteringly shared the news of their engagement. Emily and I couldn't help but laugh together, and seeing us, Jack finally relaxed and joined in the laughter. We then discussed their future plans. First, they wanted to set a date for a meeting between both families, and then start planning the wedding. The mention of meeting the families made me glance at Emily, who gave a wry smile, indicating some trouble. From Jack's demeanor, it was clear he was still unaware of his mother's objections, as he seemed genuinely happy discussing the plans. I expressed my willingness to help in any way I could, and both Jack and Emily thanked me, looking relieved. Some time later, Emily called, possibly to discuss the meeting between the families. Answering the phone. I could sense something was off by her lack of energy. So I asked about the situation. Emily, what's wrong? You don't sound like yourself. Mom, this is hard to say, but the meeting with the families might not happen. Did something happen? I asked. Slightly taken aback but recalling Emily's previous mentions of Jack's mother, suspecting she might be the cause. Are Jack's parents opposed to the marriage? It seems so. Haha. Emily's hollow laughter was evident even over the phone. It seems they have a significant issue with Emily. Likely related to her coming from a single-parent household, as indicated by previous discussions. Did you ask the exact reason? Yes, it's because we're from a single-parent family. So, as I thought. It was hard to understand the disdain towards single parents' families. When I asked if the marriage was off, Emily explained that after learning the reason for canceling the meeting, Jack became furious and declared he'd sever ties if they continued to harbor such prejudices. His parents, taken aback, agreed to the marriage but refused to have the meeting. Emily said it was the first time she saw Jack that angry and had to calm him down. After going home that day, they talked it over, and with Jack's continuous apologies, they decided to forego the family meeting. "I'm sorry, Mom. With the opposition, maybe we should reconsider the timing of the marriage." "Don't be silly. Don't worry about the meeting. What matters most is how you and Jack feel about each other. You're both adults." I shared my thoughts, feeling sorry for Emily but reassured knowing Jack was on her side. Jack said the same thing. He can't comprehend his parents' stance. "After all, it's our decision to get married, right?" Hearing this made me glad that Emily had someone like Jack by her side. They decided to proceed with the wedding so I would formally greet Jack's parents at the event. Honestly, I'm worried about Emily's life after marriage, but since she's an adult, I try to refrain from interfering as much as possible. Afterwards, it was nice to hear her happily talk about their honeymoon plans and how they're visiting various wedding venues, finding all of them so appealing that they're having a hard time deciding. The next day, I received an unusual call from Jack. "Hello, Jack? What's up, Mother? I believe Emily must have told you about the recent situation." "Yes, I heard. It must have been tough. I'm truly sorry. I had no idea my parents harbored such prejudices." Jack seems to be quite shocked by this incident. He probably never imagined such remarks could come from his own parents. As a parent myself, it's infuriating to think about saying such things to a child. Jack, who called to apologize for hurting Emily, is clearly very concerned about her. And he kept apologizing to me, expressing his regrets. "There's no need for you to apologize. I'm truly grateful that Emily has someone like you who always puts her first," I reassured him. When I said this, his voice trembled as he thanked me. I understand that changing ingrained prejudices is difficult. That's why I told him not to worry about it and instead focus on proving those prejudices wrong by being a happy couple, making his parents regret their initial disapproval in a good way. After our conversation, I started thinking about what I could do for them, and decided to prepare a surprise gift. Time passed, and the wedding day finally arrived. Despite some minor issues along the way, it seemed Jack had been a solid support for Emily, and we were about to celebrate their big day. I pulled out an album from the closet, looking through photos of Emily as a baby, with her father holding her, then her kindergarten pictures, and the ones taken after we became just the two of us. Remembering those times brought tears to my eyes. Our Emily is getting married tomorrow. She's found a wonderful person, somewhat reminiscent of you. Please watch over their wedding and ensure it goes smoothly. I spoke to my husband in heaven. Though I received no reply, I felt as if he was smiling back. On the awaited day of the wedding, I left my house, feeling unexpectedly nervous even though I wasn't the one getting married, which made me chuckle to myself. Arriving at the venue, I went to see Emily, who seemed to be in the midst of preparations. When she turned to me, I expected to see a smile, but her face was pale. "What's wrong? You're as pale as a ghost." "Yeah, just too nervous." "Am I going to be okay?" She stammered, apparently overwhelmed by her nerves. Relieved, I gently caressed her back. "Don't worry. Your dad and I are both watching over you, and above all, you have the husband you chose right beside you." After hearing this, Emily took a deep breath and seemed to calm down a bit. She thanked me and asked the staff to proceed with the preparations. Watching her, I too realized that the moment was truly upon us. Then, I decided it was time to greet Jack's parents. Upon arriving at Jack's dressing room, I found only Jack and some staff members. It seemed his parents had left a short while ago. I approached Jack to speak with him. "Hi, Jack. The big day is finally here," I said. Turning to me, his face was as pale as Emily's, a clear sign of his nerves. He exclaimed, causing me to laugh, which seemed to fluster him even more. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect to be this nervous." "Haha. Don't worry, it's quite endearing to see you both like this, I reassured him. I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? I found myself reminiscing about my own wedding. Certainly, my husband and I were also very nervous on our wedding day, both of us stiff with tension. And the staff had to work hard to calm us down. It's quite endearing to think that, in some ways, they resemble us. After greeting Jack, I set out to find his parents, but couldn't locate them before the ceremony started. I decided to wait for an opportunity during the reception to offer my greetings. As the ceremony began, I walked down the aisle with Emily, a role her father would have filled. The emotion of the moment was overwhelming, bringing tears to my eyes. In front of all the guests, I handed Emily's hand to Jack. Watching them exchange smiles filled me with a mix of joy and a touch of sadness. After the ceremony, as we moved to the reception area, I managed to find Jack's father. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Taylor, Jack's father?" "Yes, and you are," he inquired. "I'm Emily's mother." I apologize for the late introduction. "Congratulations on today. Please take good care of Emily from now on," I said, extending my wishes and hopes for their future together. When I offered my greeting, there was a moment of silence. Just as I was wondering what was going on, an unpleasant reply came back. I see. So you're the bride's mother, huh?" Looking up, I could clearly see a look of disgust on Jack's father's face, and I couldn't help but think, I knew it. "Well, nice to meet you." Deciding it was best to minimize interaction, I quickly excused myself after the greeting. Jack's mother, who I had heard about from her, was not present, so I hadn't met her yet, but I decided to look for another opportunity later. Could it be Sophia? On my way to the reception, a man stopped me. "Yes, that's me, but..." His face brightened immediately as I spoke. "Of course. It's me. Don't you remember? I'm Michael Johnson." "Michael? Of course, I remember you. But why are you here?" I had met Michael Johnson once before through work and remembered him as a very responsible young man despite his youth. "I'm the groom's cousin." "Are you by any chance related to the bride?" "I see. Yes, the bride, Emily, is my daughter." "Thank you for coming today." "Ah, I see. Congratulations. I never expected to meet you here." I chatted with Michael for a bit before we continued to the reception hall. Upon entering, Michael and I parted ways, and I looked for my seat. However, my name was nowhere to be found. When I asked a staff member, they were surprised and hurriedly left the hall, saying they would check immediately. Noticing this, Jack's father approached me with a smirk. "Is there a problem?" "Well, I can't find my seat." He burst into laughter at my response. His laughter was so irritating, and he loudly said so that others could hear. "Poor people can just stand, right?" "Excuse me?" His unexpected words made me ask again. "Do you think a poor single mother deserves a seat? You're just here for a free meal, aren't you?" "What did you just say? You can't even understand that? You're hopeless. Get out of here now." His extremely unpleasant words made it impossible for me to hide my anger. A mother who hurt Emily, and a father who looks down on single mothers. It's a wonder how a good person like Jack could come from such parents. "Then, I'll be leaving." "Well, at least you're obedient." "Can't talk back because it's true, huh?" Ignoring his remarks, I left the reception hall. However, I had been looking forward to Emily and Jack's wedding, so I was internally struggling with what to do. After stepping out of the hall, I thought I should at least explain the situation to Emily and Jack if I were to leave. It's their important wedding day. Telling them would only make Emily upset, and Jack would likely feel guilty and apologize. It's supposed to be a day filled with happiness, but is it right to bring in such adult problems? Maybe it would be best if I just endured it. I was at a loss. Then, Michael appeared. "Sophia, are you all right?" "I saw everything. I'm sorry I couldn't help." "There's no need for you to apologize, Michael. Thank you for your concern." Then, Michael made a suggestion. "There's no need for you to leave, Sophia. I have a good idea. Michael said with a smile. After calling over a staff member and explaining the situation, they happily agreed to Michael's suggestion. Michael, thank you so much. Don't mention it. It's clearly the groom's father who is at fault here. I expressed my gratitude to Michael again and was led by the staff to a certain location. On the way, I stopped by the restroom, where I encountered someone. Could it be Sophia? Yes, that's me, but who might you be? I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm thrilled to meet you here. I rarely appear in the media, having only been featured in a magazine once, so this person must be quite a fan to recognize me. Well, oh, I'm the groom's mother. Meeting you here has made this the best day ever. To my surprise, it was Jack's mother. Unlike the impression I had from Emily, she was very energetic. I see. Congratulations on this special day. Thank you so much. Could we possibly shake hands? Huh? I found myself being asked for a handshake. I agreed to the handshake and quickly made my way to the restroom. I never expected to meet her in such a manner. And it was surprising that she knew who I was. The staff led me to a location on the second floor of the reception hall. It's usually not used, but due to the circumstances, Michael had arranged for this seating. From this seat, I could oversee the entire reception and even see Emily and Jack in all their glory. It seemed that the guests on the first floor hadn't noticed me, and I could clearly see Jack's father. After a while, the energetic Jack's mother took her seat, and it appeared she was telling Jack's father about our earlier conversation. As I watched them with a sigh, the hall dimmed, and the reception began under the host's guidance. Seeing Emily and Jack enter made me tear up. They looked so beautiful. I wondered how she had grown up so fast. I'll never forget the sight of them walking shyly while surrounded by blessings. At one point, Emily and Jack looked up and smiled at me. Having heard that I was there, I waved back, taking several photos of them with my phone. Then came the time for reading letters of gratitude to the parents. Jack's parents were grinning as they watched Emily. But when they noticed me stepping onto the stage, Jack's father grimaced, and Jack's mother turned pale. Pointing at me, she trembled and stammered, "What?" I gave my speech and had Emily read her letter. By the end, Emily, Jack, and I were all in tears. We received a round of applause, and after receiving a letter and bouquet from Emily, I stepped down from the stage. Back in my second floor seat, I could see Jack's father and mother whispering to each other. Probably about me. Looking over at Michael, he nodded and gave me a thumbs up. I couldn't help but chuckle at that. I made a mental note to thank Michael properly someday. After the reception, when I went to see Jack's parents were there. I coldly asked, "Do you need something from Emily?" "No, it's not that. We wanted to speak with you." "What are you going to talk about?" "See. This is the kind of person she is. Why should I have to apologize?" This lady is someone significant. Please, I'm begging you, apologize." "No, an apology is not necessary. Besides, what exactly are you apologizing for?" As I pushed back, Jack's mother, pale-faced, hurriedly apologized. "My husband was extremely rude to you. I am terribly sorry. Please forgive us." "What rudeness are you referring to?" "The comments about you being poor and deserving only standing." "I'm truly sorry." Jack's mother seemed to be apologizing for her husband's behavior, but that wasn't what mattered to me. "I can't believe you are Emily's mother. If we had known, this never would have happened. Who I am shouldn't matter, should it? Besides, it was you who refused the meeting." "Well, that's..." As I brought up the issue of the meeting, Jack's mother fell silent. She seemed to be apologizing only for her husband's actions, but as far as I was concerned, she was no different. I didn't have a good impression of them. They continued to make excuses, claiming they would have been happy to meet if they had known it was me. And blaming Emily for not informing them in advance, insisting that they were not at fault for refusing the meeting. However, I made it clear that one of the main points of a meeting is to get to know the other person. And they had prejudged everything based on our family situation. Once again, I realized we had irreconcilably different values. Perhaps upset by my rebuttal, Jack's father spoke up next. You may be famous, but you don't look it. Are you sure it's not a case of mistaken identity? Besides, you're just a poor single mother. Oh, and what might that mean? That's when Michael intervened in our conversation. Jack's father was shocked to see Michael. Mr. Smith, the vice president. Indeed, Michael appeared to be the vice president of the company where Jack's father worked. The current president is Michael's father, who seems to be preparing to hand over the company to him. Although Michael is Jack's cousin, his father took his wife's surname. Who exactly are you referring to as a poor single mother? Well, this person here. Really? You mean Sophia? If so, that would be quite serious, wouldn't it? Serious? It seems, Keith, you're unaware of who Sophia is. She is a world-renowned painter. I heard that from my wife, but she's just a painter, right? Still poor, nonetheless. Ignorance is truly frightening. Sophia's paintings sell for millions at the lowest. What? Jack's father was dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Jack's mother shrank in size, unable to hide her turmoil. Seeing this made me sigh again. I work as a painter, sometimes creating on my own initiative and sometimes taking commissions. Many people appreciate my work and purchase it at high prices. Michael is one of those connections, with his parents being frequent buyers of my paintings. He acts as a liaison for me, communicating with my manager, and we've met once in this capacity. You're kidding. Ask my parents. They've bought them, after all. The highest price was $1 million. $1 million. That time was quite something. There was a bidding war over one of Sophia's works. But my parents really wanted it. So we ended up going to auction and winning. The passion was incredible. He looked at me with a laugh as he said this. I thanked him for that time, and he insisted on thanking me again in return. Looking over at Jack's parents, both were pale and looking down. Disrespecting Sophia like that would surely sadden my parents. As Michael said that, Jack's father suddenly looked up, breaking into a cold sweat. Please, not that. I'll apologize, he pleaded with Michael. Michael looked disgusted by his behavior and suggested he was apologizing to the wrong person. Prompted by Michael, Jack's father reluctantly turned to me and began to apologize. Though it was clear he lacked sincerity, likely due to his pride. He probably didn't understand what upset me the most. Do you even understand what I'm most angry about? What? It's because I looked down on you, right? It was clear he hadn't understood anything. I asked Jack's mother the same question, but she just looked confused. It's because you hurt someone very dear to me. Even then, they seemed clueless. Do they lack comprehension and learning abilities? It's because you hurt Emily. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Feeling angrier than I had in a long time. Although they seemed to understand after I spelled it out, their pride prevented them from apologizing directly to Emily. They tried to shift the blame onto Emily, saying, Emily had her faults, we thought she was poor because we saw her being frugal. Assuming it was because she's from a single-parent family, Emily should have been the one to explain to us. It was clear they were attempting to shift the responsibility onto Emily. Michael was appalled by their justification, and Emily looked down, disheartened. Seeing Emily upset nearly brought me to boiling point, but then Jack stepped in. Emily, remember these people well. Jack stood by her side and put his arm around her. Let's make sure we don't become a couple like this. Jack had been listening and was visibly angry. His actions calmed my anger a bit. How dare you speak to your parents like that? That's right, Jack. Apologize. No way. If you're going to keep hurting the person I care about, I'd rather cut ties with you. What? Everyone present was shocked by Jack's statement, but inwardly, I was thinking, well done. Michael also looked smug. I appreciate what you've done for me, but I'm building a new family with Emily. That's my happiness, and if you're going to interfere, I'd rather not have anything to do with you. Emily seemed relieved by Jack's presence, her anxious expression gone. Knowing Jack had such a manly side made me even more supportive of them. Jack's words left his parents disheartened and silent. Look at the groom being so cool. Emily, I know he's like this, but please take care of him. Of course. And I should be saying that to you. What do you mean, like this? The tense atmosphere lightened a bit. I felt happy, knowing that they could overcome anything together without my intervention. Prejudice and arbitrariness lead to nothing good. As I addressed the disheartened couple, they flinched and turned to me. Being from a single-parent family doesn't mean one is poor, and being poor doesn't justify disdain. It's those with impoverished hearts who are truly impoverished. With that, they had nothing to say and left the room with frustration. As a parent myself, I was relieved not to share their values. I realized how much I owed to Emily for the person I am today and felt a renewed sense of gratitude towards her. A few days later, my manager contacted me, saying a man insisted on speaking with me, claiming to be related. Curious, I agreed to take the call. Hello? Hey. It's Jack's father. The call was from Jack's father. He had looked up my office contact information to get in touch with me. Ah, what can I do for you? Convince President, Mr. Smith. Confused, I asked for more details. It seemed that Michael had reported the wedding incident to his father, Mr. Smith, who was furious, saying he couldn't keep someone so lacking in common sense and manners at the company. Since my office had a contract with the company, they were considering action that might harm the company. So you're asking me to plead for leniency? Why should I? Company matters don't concern me. His usual condescending tone was as unpleasant as ever. A reminder that some people never change. We've been unable to contact Jack since the wedding, and we're in trouble. What goes around comes around. You brought this on yourselves. How dare you? It seemed Jack had cut ties with his parents after the wedding, as he had said he would, allowing Emily to live without anxiety. It was all their own doing, yet they were bothering me, which was extremely vexing. It's astonishing you've managed to get by in society with such an attitude. There's a limit to looking down on others. I have no obligation to listen to you, and it's not my problem if you're in trouble. Come on. I'm begging you here. You really don't understand, do you? Things will unfold as they should. I'm busy, so I'll be hanging up now. Goodbye. Wait. I ended the call and told my manager not to connect any more calls from them. Despite several attempts to contact me, my manager, who is more straightforward than I am, made sure they stopped. I reported the situation to Emily and Jack, advising them to be cautious. Afterwards, Jack's parents apparently showed up at his company, but were immediately dealt with by security. Jack had explained the situation, and his company was understanding, ensuring his parents wouldn't be connected if they returned. Michael later contacted me to apologize for involving me in the company matter. But I assured him it was already handled and that our contract would continue as usual. Jack's father was demoted but caused further trouble by disputing the decision, leading to his voluntary resignation. Ever since the wedding, there was tension between Jack's parents, leading to a divorce after Jack's father became unemployed. Jack's mother reached out to Jack asking for support but was ignored. Jack's father, due to his pride, struggled to find re-employment and was barely getting by with a part-time job. His mother, unable to find support from relatives due to the wedding incident, was living in a dilapidated apartment and working part-time. As a gift to the couple, I surprised them with a house. I remembered a house Emily and Jack once said they'd love to live in, so I had one built with a similar design. I chose a location near where they were living to ensure their lifestyle wouldn't change. They were overjoyed, even suggesting I live with them in my later years. I talked to my husband in heaven that they seemed very happy, and placed a photo of the three of us. There's also the joyful anticipation of a grandchild next year, adding to my future pleasures.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.